All right, welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to be talking about the absolute apex predator of the skies. I am super excited to get into this with you because we're breaking down India's most monumental and, honestly, most significant defense acquisition from the United States to date. We're talking about a radical, ground-up transformation of intelligence gathering capabilities.
Okay, let's dive right into this. $3.99 billion. That is the landmark price tag that was just recently cleared by the U.S. Congress for the sale of 31 advanced MQ-9B machines to India. I mean, we aren't just talking about a minor military upgrade here. This is a massive, game-changing strategic commitment that completely reshapes the skies.
And to really understand why it cost almost $4 billion, you just have to consider the sheer scale of this drone's capability. The MQ-9B can fly continuously, literally without stopping, for over 35 hours at an altitude of 40,000 feet. Just imagine having this unblinking eye in the sky, silently watching everything from the altitude of a commercial airliner for a day and a half straight. It's wild.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to meet the Predator, trace the actual journey to the acquisition, examine the strategic impact it has, zoom out to look at the global context, peek into the future supply chain outlook, and then wrap it all up with some key memory triggers.
Okay, Section 1, let's actually meet the apex predator.
At its core, the MQ-9B falls into a very specific category that you definitely need to know. HALE. That stands for High Altitude Long Endurance. It's a heavily armed drone, and it comes in a few specific variants, depending on what mission it's running, namely the SeaGuardian and the SkyGuardian. Obviously, this isn't some recreational drone you're flying in your backyard. It is a highly sophisticated, lethal military asset.
Now, you might be wondering, why exactly did India need this upgrade? Well, historically, India has relied on Israeli Heron drones, and while those are totally capable of doing basic surveillance, they're largely unarmed, and they lack that true over-the-horizon satellite link range. The MQ-9, on the other hand, is heavily armed and fully satellite-linked, so it fills those critical surveillance gaps and fundamentally upgrades the military's operational reach.
Moving right along to Section 2, the journey to acquisition.
How did we actually get here? Well, back in 2016, the timeline shifted pretty significantly as India deepened its defense ties with the U.S. and was officially designated a major defense partner. Fast forward to 2020, and there was this highly successful trial run where the Indian Navy actually leased 2 unarmed MQ-9Bs, and they proved so incredibly effective at tracking Chinese warships that the military basically demanded a huge bulk order, which ultimately led to the final 2024 clearance for 31 of these drones.
So who actually gets to operate these 31 shiny new drones? The Indian Navy is taking the largest slice of the pie with 15 of them, while the Army and Air Force are receiving 8 each. This is designed to be a massive joint operation, completely integrated and operated by the Tri-Services of India.
Let's look at Section 3, the strategic impact on India. So, the crucial point is,
How does this actually change the game on the ground and, in the air? We can break this force multiplier down into 3 main strategic pillars. We've got deep surveillance without risk, hunter-killer capability, and anti-submarine warfare.
let's look at that first pillar, deep surveillance. As we mentioned, this drone can literally loiter over the freezing peaks of the Himalayas or way out over the Indian Ocean for 2 days straight, just silently feeding real-time, high-definition radar data directly back to command centers. And the absolute best part of all this? It does the whole job without putting a single Indian pilot's life at risk.
The second pillar is the hunter-killer capability. Now, remember how we said older drones were largely unarmed? Well, the MQ-9B packs a serious punch. If it spots a hostile target, say a terrorist launch pad right across the line of control, it doesn't have to radio it in and wait for a fighter jet to fly all the way over there. It can instantly destroy the target right then and there using its onboard Hellfire missiles.
The third pillar is ASW, or Anti-Submarine Warfare. The Navy's specific SeaGuardian variant is specially equipped to drop sonobuoys directly down into the ocean. Why? To detect highly stealthy Chinese submarines. This capability acts as a massive, massive force multiplier for India's existing P-8I maritime patrol aircraft. They're going to be working together like a giant high-tech puzzle.
All right, moving to Section 4, Global Context and Challenges.
When you zoom out and look at this from a global perspective, the MQ-9 series is widely considered the single most battle-tested drone on Earth. To give you an idea of its pedigree here, this is the exact same series famously used by the CIA to eliminate super high-value targets like Ayman al-Zawahiri.
It sits in direct contrast to, and honestly in fierce competition with, the Chinese Wing-Long drones.
But getting this tech wasn't exactly smooth sailing. There was a lot of intense geopolitical friction happening behind the scenes. Actually, the deal was temporarily stalled by the U.S. Congress over allegations of Indian involvement in an assassination plot on U.S. soil. Navigating that kind of diplomatic minefield to secure the final clearance? Yeah, that required massive diplomatic capital from New Delhi.
Let's move into Section 5, the Future Supply Chain Outlook.
See, the huge advantage of this deal goes far beyond simply buying some off-the-shelf drones. As part of the agreement, General Atomics is going to establish a comprehensive global MRO, that stands for Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul facility, right there in India. Setting up this hub essentially ensures India becomes a major regional center for drone maintenance, facilitating some really critical technology transfer straight into the global aerospace supply chain.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, Key Memory Triggers.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what you need to remember from today's explainer. If you need to summarize this entire massive topic in just a few seconds, lock in these buzzwords. The category is HALE. The core capability is hunter-killer deep surveillance. Remember the MQ-9B SeaGuardian, anti-submarine warfare, India's status as a major defense partner, and ultimately what this is all about, information dominance.
Well, that completely wraps up our deep dive into the MQ-9B Predator deal. But it does leave us with a really fascinating, provocative thought to chew on. Now that the absolute apex predator of the skies has been secured from abroad, what exactly happens to the future of India's own homegrown drone program? Specifically, the indigenous Tapas BH-201 UAV. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining me today.